Hey everyone, I'm Robert Silver, and I'm asking the question, am I crazy? By tackling the most sensitive social, cultural, and political topics of the day. So it's Father's Day, and I want to give a big shout out to all the fathers out there, young, old, tall, short, and every single color, every single culture. A big shout out to all the dads who give a damn, who try their best, who does not always hit the bullseye, who has faults, who is not perfect, but at least tries their damnedest. That's what this episode's about. It's about all those kinds of dads, and I want to talk about the roles of fathers, the images of fathers, and what can we do better to help support our men. So, I have a few notes here that I've kind of researched to kind of put my thoughts together. And quite honestly, there's just as soon as I started doing these notes and started doing some research and reading blogs and everything, I mean, there was just endless amount of very in-depth research, but also just so much information in general, really. And being that this hits close to home for me, that I kind of got consumed, so I wanted to keep it simple and just talk more off the cuff. For many of you that don't know, my daughter was born when I was 21, and so I was a very young dad. From about 12 years old or so to 18, I grew up with just my father and my twin brother. So therefore, my dad was, well, obviously, he was very much in our lives, and my mother was already living in California. And so I had him as a role model in terms of how to take care of bills. He told us a lot of things about, like, taking care of responsibilities, your chores, etc., etc. He wasn't the most emotional, but definitely when it came to pulling up your bootstraps and getting things done, he definitely was there in terms of, you know, how to hold your own and take care of your responsibilities. So I appreciate that. But there was also a lot of things that him being by himself and having to raise two twin boys, definitely he lacked in certain areas as well. And so with that said, I think I at least had that to look toward when Jasmine was coming into this world, and I can say, okay, I have some sort of realistic idea on what things I need to do and how do I prioritize my life at 21, where I'm supposed to be, going to college, having fun, and living stupidly or whatever, just, with less, more carefree, if you will, less responsibilities. Now I have a daughter to raise, and being that I've never had a sister, and my mom was in California by the time I was 12 or so, I never really had any feminine deep influences in my life aside from my grandmother. No sisters, no cousins, no, my mom wasn't there. So I never really understood the dynamic on how to treat women, how to raise women, what it took to be a woman. Like, I didn't know really much of anything except, what TV really gave me. And a lot of my relationships as a teenager wasn't really like in depth to like exposing me to the women experience. So I really didn't understand like the dynamic a whole lot. At least I recognize that now. At the time, of course, I felt like I knew what women, what women want, but as a teenager. But nonetheless, but here I am, I'm 21 and I have a daughter, and I'm like, oh crap. At first I was like, oh, please let it be a boy, because I at least know what guys want. At least I thought I did. And then now here I am with a girl, and I got to figure out how that whole thing works. So I literally prayed and said, okay, please just make sure I don't know, I don't mess up too bad and then thus turn around and mess her up even more. So with that said, I just prayed on it, and obviously through huge amount of family support, Jasmine turned out much better than I ever anticipated. Couldn't be more proud to be not only a father, I really do enjoy fatherhood, but also the woman that she's she's turned into, I can definitely see some traits of me, but she definitely left out a lot of negative traits that I'm glad she didn't take along for me as well. I really want to start with this question. What's the role of a father? I started thinking that was like the first thing I started thinking about this morning was, what is the role of a father? I started thinking of things like, protector or provider and, supporter and these kind of male stereotypes of men in general, and I started thinking, was that the media's influence as far as my definition was concerned, or was it based off of my personal experience and seeing other fathers doing whatever they do? And I think it's a little bit of both. I do notice I do have a tendency to want to protect or, obviously my daughter, but also certain other women in my life that I consider close. I do notice that. But, that I think that's a pretty deep question. Like, what is the role of a father? Nowadays, especially 2019, that is not so easily defined. Like, what is the role of a dad? Women earn just as much, and if not, can be earning more in households. So I think what we mean by provider has also changed too. Like the definition of providing, it's not just bringing in a fat paycheck anymore. That's not just he just provides and puts meal on the table. Then he clicks and turns off until, the next paycheck, and his role is done. So it got me thinking as well, like with my experience, I said, okay, I may not be the most wealthiest dad around, that's for sure, but I think I provide in other ways in which help to shape, influence, and show love and appreciation to my daughter nonetheless, regardless of financial, economic status. Then I think recently it's like, I'm noticing young men of all different ethnicities and whatnot, but a few in particular that are now in the position that I am. They're young fathers. While my daughter's already, graduating high school and off to college, they are just beginning their journey. And they're like, they look at me, even though I'm just 39, they look at me like, hey, what is it like? What do I do? What is this? What is that? And I think one of the major things for me was just like common denominators in my role was be consistently present in your child's life. Show up, be present, not on the phone, And I think that is one powerful role. A lot of times, it's not putting more responsibility on the mother, but father, just being there by default, you come up with ways in which you contribute to the well-being of your child, I can't really say it's, be present in X, Y, and Z with this kind of advice. Just by default, by being present, you will automatically start contributing in many ways in which you will look back and be like, damn, I can't believe that really occurred, in which you influenced your child's life. Now that my daughter is 18, I really thought about ways in which my role in her shaping to the woman that she's become. And I said, wow, I guess, perhaps I could have done better here, but I could definitely see why she leans on me in this area. It's because I've been consistently there for her, providing for her, and providing not meaning just financially. I think part of media's downfall is the fact that, negative aspects of the portrayal of men is that we have to always have this unlimited tapped resource of income. The economic status of men and being compared to other men who may have more money than you helps to add stress and pressure in all sorts of ways. I mean, I'm living that dream now. And then all of a sudden tying our success as a father, as a man, as a partner is tied to your financial well-being. And that's like such a small piece of the pie in which is put on your tombstone as being a great father, a great brother, a great son, a great lover, or whatever it may be. And it almost like dismisses all the other ways in which you could contribute to an awesome relationship. In today's case, your children. A lot of times children they may ask for things, but ultimately they don't want money for the most part. They don't want money over your time, and that's what I mean by being present. I don't mean by just be sitting in the same room together. I mean actually digging deep in dialogue about their day, whether you care about it or not. Just act like it. That lets them know that you're at least attempting. I don't have long-winded conversations a whole lot, but I do have many conversations with my daughter about whatever it may be. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm sure you'll find your way, but these are just ways in which I've been able to be consistent with my presence, So again, that goes back to like your role. My role in my daughter's life is going to be completely different in the way in which I manifest that than you. But I think as a father, it's really important to really think about like, what is my role seriously? What has been? What is it? What are ways? And not only that, hopefully if you see somebody else, you could help them answer that question for themselves. Again, I didn't find that out really till maybe a couple years ago. I started really thinking about like, what kind of role have I played positively or negatively in my daughter's life? But that was obviously after 16 years of being on this planet. The first 10, I'm trying to figure out how not to sink and get drowned by the pressure of being a father. I didn't get to live my 20s like I see many people on Instagram and Facebook and wherever living their life as 20s. I had to grow up pretty fast. But I think, again, going back to my father, he was a very influential role model for me to see, like, how does a man take care of this sort of pressure? He just buckled down and worked and did what he had to do. So I at least had that to work off of, and the rest, my mother and family. In many ways, I think that the images of men, or fathers in general, are under attack. I mean, I literally sat down for a moment and started to think to myself, where are the positive portrayals of men today? And I started thinking of shows like Family Guy, Married with Children, Modern Family. And these are just a few examples in which men are portrayed as bumbling idiots, unintelligent, doesn't seem to be able to tie their own shoes without their wife's help. And again, this is not to like downplay the role of mothers, but I'm just saying, fathers seem to get an unfair rap when it comes to their involvement in the contribution of raising their children. Now, rarely are they ever seen as nurturers or emotionally connected with not only themselves, but with their children. I'm not sure where all this comes from, but it seems like as if it's like a single mother, she can do it all. She can play the dad role, she can play the mom role, she can play every role there is, a teacher, a guidance counselor, a minister, and whatever else when it comes to the raising of their child. But then when it comes to a man, it definitely doesn't even seem like he could do anything but earn some money and bring it home to the family. And that's his contribution. That's it. It stops right there. Or be a comedic relief in a TV show. So I found this awesome study on fatherhood.com, which gives a pretty interesting explanation here. Sadly, parents and professionals are often not aware of this evidence, so their views aren't informed and shaped by education. If mass media is getting fatherhood wrong, what about parents and professionals who've had negative experience with their fathers, husbands, and partners of their own children? When professionals hold a negative view of fathers, they are reluctant to